We got two programs right now. One that is, as you mentioned, how do they respond and go to Illinois? They're going to have to get some more wins, obviously, to get to a bowl game. Where do they find those wins? How do they get to them? Do they get to 6 to get to a bowl game? And for Michigan, we're talking about, okay, can they compete with Ohio State? Is what we've seen through 8 games on both sides,
right,
whether it's Michigan or Ohio State. What does that game look like? And it's really hard to predict because of what we saw last year. Everybody said at this time last year, well, you can't beat Ohio State by running the ball. Well, when you run for 5 touchdowns, as Michigan State did against Michigan last year, as Michigan did against Ohio State, we found out you can win running the football. But I don't know that is a recipe for a yearly victory.
Could they have run the balls effectively without a Hassan Haskins type of running back where you get 3 yards that you think, and then he just keeps churning?
Well, I mean, did you watch Blake Corum?
I know, I understand that.
He did the same thing.
Yeah, I know, but I think
sometimes he bounced off, sometimes he made a miss, and sometimes he just carried him for 7-8 yards. So, you can. You got the same kind of back.
I don't think he's the same type of back at all.
Well, I mean, the different styles, but he can,
yes,
carry those guys. We saw it on the first drive.
I know.
I mean, he carried him, 8 yards for a first down.
I get that. I'm more interested, about this week for Michigan State. If I am Mel Tucker or, the offensive coordinator, Jay Johnson, I run the ball single digits. I'm just throwing the ball every time. Whether it's and I'm throwing the ball to Reed more now. Look, I know Michigan tried to double him up, and then they switched over to Coleman after Coleman had a great first half. But I'm just throwing the ball every time I can.
Well, when you have that talented receiver, we saw Keon Coleman, what he can do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Absolutely. And the fact that more than that, you're playing up against a team, Illinois, that can stop the run, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, your own team can't run the ball, and your best running back, Elijah Collins, you don't use enough.
Yeah. And here's the one thing I know about Michigan or about Illinois is, I forget the kid's name. They got one corner who's, I think in a mock draft they talked about him coming to the Detroit Lions. They've got NFL talent on both sides of the ball. They're a much different program than they were 3 years ago under Lovie Smith. Now, some of the guys that were recruited by Lovie, but when I look at them, I think, okay, if they're going to run the ball, they're going to take time off the clock, much like Michigan did. Time of possession was over 40 minutes. You've got to be a quick strike offense, and that's what Michigan State does.